And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because, well, really, if you don't have somewhere where you can bitch, moan, complain, do you really have friends? Do you really, though? Yeah, anybody can hide a body, but somebody that you can bitch to, that's something special. And part of this is to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Hi, good to be back with you. And at the moment, the only co-host that I've got, who is probably going to get upgraded from guest to actual host listing duties, Io is back from the left coast. Hi.
Off to do some sketchy shit. Doo-da, doo-da. Hope we get away with it. Oh, da-doo-da day.
Yep. That's pretty much it. And you know, I just realized just as I was doing my intro, I forgot to get the next can of alcoholic beverage to try out. I forgot the last couple of weeks. Oh well. I guess that's just an excuse for me to go ahead and do it next time. Which, as a warning, is not going to be next week. So I'll get this out of the way now. Next week, I'm going to be visiting my kid on Sunday, which means I need to get to sleep on Saturday, which is technically, since we haven't been to sleep yet, it's still Saturday to me, even though, according to the clock, it's Sunday morning here on the East Coast of the US. So, no show next week. I'd like to say I'm sorry, but screw y'all. I'm going to see my kid. That's kind of the way that it works. Oh well. So, of course, as always, if you join us while we are on duty, which, again, not going to happen next week, but, you know, that's the way that it is, you can be part of the live chat over there on the screen, which means Stephanie is there. Hi. Felis. Hi. Let's not have that happen again, shall we? Knows what she did. She knows what she almost did. So, there's that. And, yeah.
Oh, really? Felis, tell me all about it in Discord.
No, no, no. It was. She did, she did something and avoided something, and I'm just glad that it was an avoidance. And let's not do that again, shall we? Right. Yeah, I want to go with
Off
that.
to do some sketchy shit. Doo-da, doo-da.
Yeah, it wasn't the fun kind of sketchy. So that's the reason why. Anyway, so yeah, it was good to be out this week. Um, I don't I don't always go out on Saturdays. I used to every week. Every once in a while, there have been a couple of Saturdays where I have not gone out to be out with my friends because just asleep for most of the day after how work has been. Because I'm outside where it's 90, 90 Fahrenheit and 90 humidity. For those of you that don't do freedom units by caliber, it basically comes out to death. I don't know how else to really describe it. It's just bad. So this week it was nice to kind of get out. So I'm very happy for that. Um so the only other thing that I'm going to tell you guys about that I've got is believe it or not, at the shop we had something come into the shop as a donation that I was legitimately pissed off that we couldn't just turn around and sell, because it could have sold for $120, $150 maybe. It was a circa 1970 early. Um, it was a fairly sizable Miller Lite, honest to God, neon sign. As in, You plug it in, you have to pull the cord, the little chain cord, to turn on the exciter, and it's all one bent glass tube filled with neon, and the thing had everything going on. It had the electronic buzz because I could see the spark on the inside of the tube buzzing, and the parts that had to be dark were covered with black paint like they're supposed to be, and the thing highlighted like crazy. And I took a picture with my phone, and it actually lit up beautifully. We couldn't sell it because the power cord had been snipped at the end and replaced with a different plug on it, so we couldn't sell it because it wasn't safe to sell, and probably wasn't really safe for me to plug it in. But damn, it was a thing of beauty. And I was really,
Yeah.
really freaking pissed off that we couldn't sell that.
Yes, I see the picture of it. It is a thing of beauty. Some teenager, young adult would have probably loved it.
Oh yeah.
Hell, somebody in their 50s or 60s would have gone, mine.
Yeah.
This is for my shed or cave, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't have a picture of it over in the HCTV channels. I will see about dropping one over there so you guys can take a look at that, because oh my god, it lit up so great. It lit up so great. It was worth it. I have to see about that. Stephanie's pointing out it is the humidity that really gets you. You have my sympathy. Yeah. Man, when the humidity comes in and kicks you all over the place, wow, it hurts so bad.
Yeah, it does.
Bad. And you know what? So long as we don't have to deal with another water spout forming over Lake Erie, I'll be happy with that. And the only other interesting thing I can tell y'all is that y'all remember I was talking about all of my BlueSky invite codes. I found the thumb drive. This is the one that I put my Ubuntu program installer onto, and updated my Ubuntu side on my computer, the Linux side. So that part is almost 100%. It's about 95% done, and all I need to do is get my DJ program built from source code. I am kind of looking forward to this. At the same time, I'm scared as hell of it, but you know what? Is what it is. I'll make it work. Anything that you want to make mention about while I got a couple of moments before we get started?
Well, when I got home today, I went straight into the shower, and I literally could hear the water just going off of me, especially my black hair, just because of how hot it is. I went and saw a movie by myself.
Okay.
Hubby said this is part of your birthday present that I promised you back in June. I don't want to go because I'm not feeling up to it, and I want to do other things. I just want to decompress. We had one of those clients yesterday. So I went and saw the Marvel movie that Marvel fans have been waiting for. I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say I had my little geekgasms about every 2 minutes in that movie. Sometimes more often, sometimes not as often. And it was great.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Everybody knows what movie I'm talking about because it's out right now.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Is it fair to say that if you do take it and kind of squash it together, it makes orange, like a burnt umber kind of orange?
Yeah. The problem is the theater itself, the air conditioning was not working in the theater. In the lobby, it was working, but not in the theater. So I went and had a little chat with the manager and said, this just was not right. The movie was right. The sound was right, the previews were right, your staff was great, but I stood up from my seat and just drenched because I could feel all the sweat. And I got a ticket for another movie, so I'm probably seeing something Monday or Tuesday.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, considering
Oh,
that I remember seeing pictures, the old black and white pictures from like the 40s, I think, where the theaters, the movie theaters, were advertising that you could come in for ice cold air conditioning. I think is the way that they build it, but you know, is the thing. Yeah.
yeah, I really noticed it when I left the theater and went out to the lobby, and again, that drenching feel of all the sweat. I don't want to have to do this, Mr. Manager. You know, I'm not trying to Karen up here, but this is the problem. And he said, "Look, I'll give you a ticket so you can come back and enjoy a movie in one of our other theaters. Got like 20 theaters in this place."
Yeah, one of them's got to be working.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, perfectly reasonable. And Felix is asking Howard and the Purple Crayon. I didn't know that was. I guess I've got some homework I have to do because I don't know nothing about that one. Okay.
Let's just say shish kebab and Forkman.
I mean, okay. Okay, we'll go with that. So let me go ahead and get everything started over here for us. So with 5 minutes on the clock, 5-minute freestyle is gonna start right now. Now on the screen, you notice don't have a picture of me this time. You don't have my video feed, and there's a reason. Because the title for this one, of course, is FUJIN, which is what I used to call my wife. It turned out that when we went looking up, pet names and whatnot, one of the names that came up and that she called me was Shujin, which is stuck, obviously. The name Tribble as a nickname had stuck around for a long time because I love Star Trek. Tribbles. I mean, who in the hell is ever going to think about a tribble in any kind of way? And it turns out that Shujin loosely translates to husband. And I say very loosely because the context of it is master. And again, it doesn't quite get the right piece across because it's the same way that like somebody would say the master of the house. That's what the context of it is supposed to be. Lurch comes over, greets you at the door. Master Adams will see you now. That's the kind of context. So she called me Shujin, and effectively Fujin is wife. So it's one of those things that, just worked for us. Next week, the 11th, is her birthday. She should have been 55. We would have been at the same age again, which she was born in 1970 in August. I was born in 1969 in March. So there is a part of the year where we actually do have overlapping ages. And to say that I miss her doesn't do justice. You guys know that. You've been with me long enough for any length of time, really. You know that. Nothing's changed. And I am always just still that 35-year-old who is inspecting the house to try and find out what did the subcontractors screw up this time and what's going on with the new baby. And when do I have to pick her up at the hospital after treatments? And in college, we got away with a lot. There are some things we didn't get away with, but there are some things that will always remain with me special. And I don't believe that that will ever change for me. There are people who say that, the old guard of people who remember, their grandparents or great grandparents. The partner died and they never remarried. They were always married to whoever it was for the remainder of their days. And the story is about people who ended up dead shortly after their partner died. That for no other reason other than, as some have put it, a broken heart, literally. Turns out I've looked that up. That really is a thing. And I've said before that I do believe that I could have passed shortly, very, very shortly after her, as in like within the week. But she will always be my one. She will always be the lady. She was special. She was special in a way that I could never explain fully to anyone, except just by being. And I don't ever want anyone to think that I feel bad if they've got a love of their own that they talk to me about. I would love to hear it. I'd love to see it. I want people to be happy. I want people to have that kind of person in their life with them too, even if I can't have it. I'll tell you why. Because I want people to be happy. I want people to have what I had. I don't know that it's possible for everyone to have what I had, what we had. I don't think that's a realistic goal. But you know what? If that is what you have, share it with me. I love to hear it. Because I want you to be happy too. I want people to be happy. Even if I can't. I'm not that much of a bastard. So with that out of the way, how about we get on over to the horrible scopes, because we got the horrible scopes to do. So for those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can make it up as you go along. Flip a coin, get a D12, and read the squiggles on it. If you need a D12, get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. Tell them I sent you. Hail, hail, Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil. Just be looking out for the mimic in the window. By the way, I learned something. Mimics, the longer they live, become more aware and mental and sentient. Somebody suggested that depending as to how old a dungeon is, the mimics might become very, like, pet level sentient. Can you imagine that? A mimic that actually befriends an entire adventuring party and sticks around with them as their pet? I don't know if I should be horrified or amused, but that would be funny. That would be funny to me.
It'll be something.
Now, normally, there is a common theme running through the horrible scopes. You might have noticed that before, but not this time. No, intention this week is to get about as random as possible and have it still make sense. What makes that different from every other week's listings? Really not sure. But I'm going out on a limb, and I'm gonna say the Man of La Mancha. That is a joke back from the old Hollywood Squares days, and I'll explain it very quickly. George Gobel was asked, George, true or false? According to scientists, drinking too much alcohol can affect your long-term memory. Wow, geez. I guess I would have to say the Man of La Mancha. Nice answer for a true or false over there. Aries, You're a straight-ahead jazz personality in an abacab world. You want to carve your own path while nearly everything around you is following identifiable patterns. You're the one going for the high score in Frogger while trying to find exploitable timings and pixel hitboxes. So this week, there are plenty of companies that refurbish and sell arcade game cabinets from the 80s. Just buy one and be done with it already.
Oh, right. Sorry, I was reading about something that pertains to the topic at hand. Taurus. No matter what you think, there are women's shoes called kitten heels. And no, Catwoman never wore a set. Okay, question. Eartha Kitt. What's her name? The original Catwoman.
Julie Newmar.
Julie Newmar, Michelle Pfeiffer, or Halle Berry. Which one do you like?
Julie.
Eartha.
No question in my mind whatsoever, Julie Newmar, every second.
Eartha, because she had that...
That's fair. It was a little bit too much over the top for me, but we're also forgetting one. Don't forget, there was also the one from the first original Batman movie from 1966, and I've forgotten what the hell her name is.
Anyway, if you want to learn how to wear heels, but are afraid that you'll break your ankles the first time you try to walk in them, or the 100th time, these are the shoes for you. So this week, guys, if you wear a size 10, go with a women's size 12 or bigger, maybe in a wide version. Spirit Halloween stores are being readied as we speak. Get used to your costumes footwear now. Break them in so you don't break yourself.
Yeah.
Brides, also do that.
Yeah. If you ask really nicely, maybe I'll bring the 5 3/4 inch stiletto black single strap heel shoes that I've got for. No, don't bother asking this. Happen, Gemini. The biggest problem for you getting a new computer is realizing how little money you have to work with. Don't think spending less for a pre-built model is a good value all the time. With just a little coaching, you can set up a damn good computer on a budget with only minimal amounts of corner cutting. And not even with a Dremel either. So this week, do not water cool your computer yourself. There's only so many corners you can successfully cut, and heat management isn't one of them to screw around with.
No, we like our CPUs. Cancer Moonchild, we understand that you want to please everyone around you, but you have to take time out for yourself. It's not being selfish, it's being concerned for the person that's helping all those other people. So this week, get your sleep, stay hydrated, self-care, and for crying out loud, learn how to make a Long Island egg sandwich breakfast. It's loads better than anything. It's loads better than anything. I can't even say their names. It's loads better than anything Booger Fling or Rotten Ronnie's will put out.
Good on you there.
It's the Canadian in me. I cannot call them.
I know. Powered through it. You're professional. It's good on you. Leo.
I'm not a professional.
While the summer months are still here, we're going to suggest you consider and then disregard a very specific new hobby. Model rocketry. Sure, it's fun to play Kerbal Space Program in real life, but only until you start learning the math and realize you've just made a rocket with an acceleration of about 50 Gs. So this week, if a Kerbinaut weighed 30 kilograms on Kerbin, this has been identified, putting them in a rocket pulling 50 Gs would make them weigh approximately, you kind of have to do the conversion here at this point, chunky salsa. Plus, the ground is too dry. You're going to set off a wildfire. Don't do it. I know there's somebody that's feeling really uncomfortable about that when I wrote this well before I knew anything, so don't get on my case. I'm not writing it about you.
Chunky salsa, meat crayon, stuff like that, yeah. Virgo, speaking of it being summertime, there's a good way to pass the time in air-conditioned goodness while not spending the money on the electricity. Go out and watch a movie for a change.
Yeah,
You're
about
still
that.
spending money. You haven't been to one in a couple of years, but this is your big opportunity. And if you're really lucky, you get to see the upcoming trailers for movies like Beetlejuice. And I saw that. This today. It is good trailer. It is a good trailer. Oh, it's going to be a good movie. So this week, how wild would it be for the star Beetlejuice to finally go supernova the same week that the movie comes out? That'll be pretty amazing, right? Maybe place a bet on it happening?
Yeah, one of the things about the production for the Beetlejuice is that Michael Keaton agreed to come back for it, but only if, well, one of the things was that he not get any more time on screen than he did the first time. Because Beetlejuice has only got about, what did he say, like 24 minutes of actual screen time, or even less, out of an hour and a half movie, so, you know.
I saw that one in the theaters originally.
It's pretty
and
cool.
I loved it.
Libra, remember the G.I. Joe toys from the 1980s? Originally, there was never supposed to be a villain group. But the Marvel Comics stories, written by Larry Hama, created them. Eventually, Cobra Toys sold 40% of all the Joe toy sales. And since each medium to feature G.I. Joe has its own continuity, not unlike the Marvel multiverse, the origin and portrayal of Cobra has differed in each one of them. And do you know what COBRA is an acronym for? Time for you to learn. So this week, most people think it stands for conversion by blackmail, revolution, and anarchy. Trouble is, the guy who wrote the original comics vehemently denies this. So what's it gonna be? Reality or fun?
Once again, trying to convince producers and toy makers that when you're producing a toy for boys, make sure you have enough female variants. Scarlet and Baroness and Lady J and Jinx and CoverGirl weren't enough.
No, but Baroness
Was evil.
Yeah, she
and Zorana
was.
too.
You want to talk dangerous curves? That was her.
Like, if you're going to make something that you're aiming at children, have more than one female character. Ugh. All right. Scorpio. Back in 1979, there was a TV series, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And just like the original Battlestar Galactica, the pilot episode was turned into a motion picture release in theaters. If ever you want to learn what plot armor is all about, watch it. This single personal shuttle, Ranger 3, is shot at by laser guns from a draconian fighter, and all it does is singe the outside a little. So this week, if you get hurt but not harmed in your day-to-day life, it means you're the special. The fourth wall is out there for you to look through it. Use it. I saw both of those as TV movies.
Yep.
And mid-90s, I actually rented the Battlestar Galactica movie, stuck it in my VCR, and sat and watched it. And I saw a scene that wasn't shown on the TV. Actually, was edited for TV. It was the scene with Starbuck and Cassiopeia, the medic. Yeah. Well, she eventually became a medic. They were in one of the Viper tubes, and Athena found them on the video and went, I'm going to put this on.
Yes, she did, didn't she?
Mm-hmm. The way the TV was done was more G-rated. The way the movie was
just slightly PG, I think.
A bit more than PG.
Yeah. Yeah. Sagittarius, we've got some really important life advice for you, so listen closely. Don't be a dick. No, seriously, just don't. If you go into a store looking for something to buy, and for some reason it doesn't have a price tag and the staff shows you where the tag was and the obvious scrape-off residue, do not pitch a fit because they won't sell it to you. So this week, grow a pair and apologize to the people who treated like crap. Because if you don't, someone's going to notice and have you pay for it later. Somehow. No, I'm sure there is no life event that's happened that's ever influenced it.
Capricorn, there are reasons to drink, and what the drink is will determine the time frame. For instance, coffee. Fresh ground and brewed, flaming hot. Yep, first thing in the morning. Dry red wine. The first hour at an all-you-can-eat meat buffet like Texas de Brazil. See, it's simple. So this week, don't you ever consider instant freeze-dried decaf coffee. We will disown you.
To be clear, there is a dessert or drink, I forget which it is, where you do have to use that stuff. I've forgotten what it is off the top of my head. I know that we used it in one of the previous scopes, but that is the only excuse to ever use that stuff. Only excuse ever.
My mother used to have her freeze-dried coffee thing for guests, but it wasn't the decaf. She actually made sure it was coffee. We had that little jar, and if the person wanted cream, well, they could have some of my milk. Just go ahead, have the milk. Because she didn't drink coffee, I didn't drink coffee, and in the place that I used to live, I had a Keurig.
There you go.
So if somebody wanted coffee, they could have coffee.
Yeah. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I think there is only one other excuse for having freeze-dried coffee. As an astronaut.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Those poor suckers.
Yeah, but I mean, they gave us Tang. So,
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to drink Tang as a kid. I love it.
Could be worse. Aquarius, not much time left in the summer, so you better get a little splurge time in. We've suggested taking a drive, a day trip, a couple of times before, but how about a twist on it? Rent a supercar. It'll be a little bit more expensive than renting a Ford Fusion or a Nissan Leaf, but imagine all the people staring at you as you drive by in a McLaren Artura Spider. So this week, you might not be able to afford renting one, but you can at least sit in one. See if you can do that. It'll be worth it. If you don't know what the McLaren Artura Spider looks like, look it up.
I had a cargasm about it yesterday when we did this because I looked it up. I wanted to be the girl on the hood. Didn't want to get in it. I just wanted to be the girl on the hood. Pisces, do you have any idea how cared about you are? We didn't think so. You are so tough to convince, but we're never going to stop trying. You are special and valid and don't need to try so hard. As hard as it'll be for you to do, slow down just a little bit. That sore muscle is your yellow card. It's a warning. Pay attention to it. So this week, yellow cards are used in European football and Letterkenny business pitch meetings. Go binge on some Letterkenny episodes this week, or watch Olympic football because it's there.
Yeah, you could. Actually, come to think of it, I should probably try to find the clip on YouTube of the business pitch meetings from Letterkenny and have folks take a look at that, because that's funny. Those are your horrible scopes for this week. If you like what you got, I'm not trying hard enough, apparently, and that's just kind of the way that it works. If you want a better or nastier one for yourself or someone else's sign, all you need to do is pay me by vanity. Just let me know. Or conversely, you can literally bribe me over at Coffee. Coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. The link is in the description. I'll have these posted online at the end of the week. Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, BlueSky. Yeah, that thumb drive that I showed you before, that was where those BlueSky codes were. Until they're not anymore. So, go me, I guess.
I'm so glad my video isn't up because right now you're getting a double Trudeau salute.
Perfectly reasonable.
I offered you. I offered.
I know. It is what it is. It's episode 503 on the docket, Your Honor. New semester, new posters. Some of you might have heard that some states here in the United States have decided that they were going to institute new policies for their education departments, that public schools are required to put up posters, and I use the term loosely because they're not exactly what I would consider a poster, but it is, of the 10 Commandments. And not just any commandments, not necessarily from quote-unquote the Bible, but the 10 Commandments as dictated as being the official recognized ones from, like, the top state-level government people. For no other reason other than they can. And so that they don't get screwed over, as others have, they've gone ahead and put into the legislation that it has to be a certain size, like 14 by 8 or 14 by 11 inches, I should remind you, and have to be a font size of a specific size minimum so that it can be read easily, and it must be in English. So, yeah, I want to go ahead and I want to kind of have a little bit of a bitch fest about this, because I've seen some of these poster pictures and they're cute, they're adorable, they're colorful, they make me want to vomit all over them, not because they're making me sick, but because I know full well that the stomach acids that would come all over that plastic would corrode and eat through it, or minimally would make everybody just sympathetically vomit along with me, I would hope. So, yeah. And just to make sure that I set the stage properly, here in the United States, as many have heard on many an occasion, the much vaulted First Amendment to the Constitution is the one that basically says, amongst other things, and the germane part of this, that the wording is Congress, in which case that's been meant to equate to the government, is not allowed to dictate religion, not supposed to forward any specific religion, and is not supposed to interfere with any specific religion. And yet, now, Io, you've got a little bit of experience Canada ways. As I've understood it, Canada, there is no quote unquote First Amendment or quite equivalent on that side. At least nothing that gets trotted out every time that somebody throws a hissy fit. But to the best of my recollection, there really isn't the same level of what the fuckery going on in most of the public schools, to the best of your recollection, no?
Well, for one thing, Canada is not a separation of church and state as much as it is in the States, or at least it's supposed to be. And Canada is a Christian nation. We have God in our charter, we've got God in our constitution. I'm pretty sure of it. I've just pulled up the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the right and freedom set out in subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law that can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. So yes, we do have fundamental freedoms and democratic rights, such as conscience and religion. So even though Canada is a Christian nation, we can have whatever religion we want. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, expression, including freedom of the press and other medium of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom of association. What we also have in Canada is if what you say constitutes hate speech, you can be held liable for it. You cannot scream freedom of speech. Yeah, you have the freedom of thought, belief, opinion, expression, but if it harms somebody, you could be held liable. And this is one of the things that drives me absolutely batty. A certain somebody was saying stuff and riled up a bunch of his supporters, and they went and did bad things on a certain January 6th. Now, if that had been Ottawa, the Speaker of the House might have brought out his big club and gone bang on their heads. Because that actually happened. Somebody was raiding the Canadian Parliament, and the Speaker of the House was actually the one to defend it, or one of the other ministers, or whatever. It was over a decade ago, and my memory's fuzzy. I'll probably look it up later for show notes. But here in the United States, you can spout the vilest trash and rage an audience and scream that it's your freedom of speech. And yes, I do believe in the right to speak. The rant in the American president is one of my favorite things to pull out to people when it comes to freedom of speech. But there has to be a limit. If you're causing harm, then you should stop or be stopped.
Yeah, and that's something that some folks really don't properly understand. And by some folks, I mean a very large number of them here in my country, that the quote-unquote freedom of speech they're talking about doesn't extend into, what's the expression that I'm looking for? Inciting a riot. Because your freedom of speech has to do with being able to say something whether or not the government agrees with it. And by the government, it doesn't have to be the federal level. It could be at any level of government. But that you are allowed to say something so long as you are not causing harm. And quote unquote inciting a riot means your speech has gotten at least, and this is where it gets interesting, at least one other person to go out and do harm. Now, it doesn't matter if it's one person or if it's 1,000 or if it's several thousand. That's you're perfectly permitted to go ahead and say these things, and it is perfectly legal for you to say these things. However, it's the consequence of whatever it is that you say where you start to get into a problem. For instance, some people don't understand, especially some police officers don't understand. You are, in my country, you are permitted to protest the government and its agencies, i.e., flipping off a cop is protected speech because it is a protest against the constabulary, which is a portion of the executive branch of the United States. And there are many cops that simply do not understand your hurt fees do not equate into something that you can prosecute somebody for. You try to write a ticket for that, the prosecuting attorney is going to look at this and go, what the hell were you thinking? Congratulations, you're now in the middle of a lawsuit regarding, minimally, First Amendment violation. Literally a federal case. There's probably others in the Fourth and Fifth Amendments that we don't need to go into, but you get the idea.
The quote from the American president is, America isn't easy. America's advanced citizenship. You gotta want it bad because it's going to put up a fight. It's going to say, you want free speech? Let's see you acknowledge a man whose words make your blood boil, who's standing center stage and advocating at the top of his lungs that which you would spend a lifetime opposing at the top of yours. You want to claim this land is the land of the free? Then the symbol of the country cannot just be a flag. The symbol also has to be one of its citizens exercising their right to burn that flag in protest. Now show me that, defend that, celebrate that in your classrooms. Then you can stand up and sing about the land of the free. The problem is there's nothing in anywhere about how if your words incite violence, you're responsible. It's just free speech, free speech, free speech. It's honestly, it's similar to the gun rights people. It's our guns. We're going to keep our guns no matter what. We don't care who gets shot. Well, guys, your candidate for president just got shot at. You'd think that would actually enrage the gun-toting people that, maybe we should get rid of guns, ban them all to protect at least our president. No, it's not going to happen.
Nope.
My right to hold a gun is more important than his right to live.
Yeah, the right of the students to live.
The right of anyone to live. People going to nightclubs or just out to a theater or going to work, they don't deserve to be turned into targets.
Well, this is interesting. Stephanie's saying we're all laughing our heads off at the idea that would-be rioters went to Liverpool. The only place that would be arguably worse is Glasgow. First off, I hope I've properly pronounced Glasgow because I think that I've done it wrong because I'm a stinking American that hasn't been to UK in a very, very, very long time and hardly ever been there. And simultaneously, isn't Liverpool the same place where there was a song that came out of it, All You Need Is Love? Spitballing here just a little bit, kind of going back a ways. The idea of this whole damn thing, of people in my country not properly understanding what the rules are supposed to be, that are supposed to be followed, it doesn't surprise me entirely. It annoys me because generally speaking, we're not really taught all these things, the ins and outs of it all. And then you got the small problem of the oft used expression, well, ignorance is no excuse for the law. And as far as I'm concerned, that is such tripe. I don't know any other word for it. It is the most lazy, banal excuse for, well, if you didn't know about the rules before, well, that's on you. How can that possibly be if I didn't even have a concept that such a thing could be? It wasn't until relatively recently that I found out that, the walking backwards with an ice cream cone in your back pocket on a Sunday afternoon is illegal in some cities, was a legit thing to prevent people from stealing horses. So if
Wait, what?
Yep. There was a law, and probably in some areas there still is, that you're not allowed to walk around on, I forget what, that it was supposed to be, supposedly on a specific day, whatever it was, not allowed to walk around with an ice cream cone in your back pocket. I think it was supposed to be also on like a specific day or time of day, whatever the hell it was. And this was one of those things where it's usually a compilation of, stupid laws that are on the books still for whatever reason. And, you hear it out of context. It's like, that's funny. That's stupid. Why would anybody do that? Only to find out, yeah, that was a way of like enticing horses to follow you because they would smell the ice cream, they would want a treat, and you walk in front of them, past them, and then they would follow because they wanted ice cream. And oh, look at that, they just followed me home. I guess I get to keep them. So the rule had a legitimate reason, but it's just so antiquated that if somebody were to do that now, they'd have no reason to know because there's no valid, concernable reason to know it. And if you get prosecuted for something that you had no idea was even a thing anymore, but it's still on the books, and you get prosecuted for it, well, the concept of jaywalking, which is crossing the street not at a corner, you could still be prosecuted for in most jurisdictions. But why would you ever think about that? Do I need to cross the street at the corner if I'm just going across the street to my neighbor's house? According to where you live and what the street looks like, yeah, maybe you're supposed to, but police gonna stop me from going across the street in my own neighborhood? No. Unless they want to be a dick. And then they could go ahead and they could do it and claim that it's valid because technically it's still valid. So this whole thing with the schools, they could say, well, that's putting up these 10 commandments, that's following the law. Except that it's not a lawful order. Because federal law trumps, you'll pardon the expression, anybody else's in this country. State law, municipal law, it must be valid according to the Constitution, because the Constitution is the highest law of it all. And if you're breaking that, it's invalid. And, well, this kind of thing has also been brought up to the courts before. So yeah.
I'm trying to find an image of the Canadian Constitution that I can actually read without having to put on glasses.
Stephanie's also pointed out, do watch A Different Bias on this. It's only about 10 minutes and Phil is worth watching. I will have to go look that up. I'm unfamiliar with this. So, thank you. We'll see about that. Yeah, the reason why I bring up about how federal law trumps, again, forgive me, I have to use that word because that is supersedes. I'll use that one. Supersedes any other lower laws, state level and below, is that this exact thing has been brought up several times before in the past, all the way to the Supreme Court, which in this country, in the United States, the Supreme Court is the highest federal level court. It is the one that ultimately determines, is this constitutional? And therefore, is this valid? There are some times where they get it right. There are some times where they get it wrong. And sometimes it's because of the way that the case has been brought to them and what information has been brought to them. And unfortunately, one of the biggest problems that we have currently with the makeup of the court is that it is a very heavily biased court. Now, I'm not going to say heavily biased conservative, because when the court is 5-4 in either side, because reminding you, it's currently nine court people, there is going to be a bias. Whether it's conservative or it's progressive, it depends as to, which group has got the 5, which group has got the 4 at any one time. But as it stands right now, it is too heavily biased for one side. And I say that because, as memory serves, I do believe that it's currently a 6-3 leaning, which sucks because 3 of them were appointed by the former guy.
The felon.
Yes. And that shouldn't have been allowed to have happened. And I don't say that lightly.
Because they decided to play tricks with Obama and not let him pick at least one judge or 2 judges in his last year.
Yep.
Something like that.
And that's entirely Mitch McConnell being an absolute shit. He was a duplicitous liar. He was a liar. And I will be one of those people that is going to not wish harm upon him, but will read with some level of satisfaction his eventual obituary. So, the worry that I have, and a lot of others, is that even if the facts are clearly laid out that show that this thing that these states are going to be doing, that are going to implement, are invalid, are unconstitutional, that the information, even if presented clearly, shows that it is simply the wrong thing, the court may actually say, no, we don't think that information was germane in this particular case. Because of that, there is no case. Therefore, it's perfectly fine. Because that's kind of the likelihood of what's going to end up happening. Or the court will end up pulling some obscure legal ruling from the 1600s that happened here before this country was a country, or from the 1800s from British law because they can. And it's been done before. So, you know, there is this big cluster of why and trying to figure out this whole damn thing out. And it's absolutely, for me, it's just simply up a wall, down the other side. I don't know what we can expect to do.
Well, I've been trying to find an actual version of the Canadian Constitution that was from 1982. And the Canadian Constitution is not like the US. I can't even think of the name of it right now. Yes, I'm hearing the Schoolhouse Rock preamble. But one of the first lines in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is, whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. That's the first part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's before any numbers. And then it goes in the guarantee of rights and freedoms and stuff like that. And there's also the notwithstanding clause, which basically means that if something is in an emergency or needs to be done for no more than 5 years, Canada can enact a law that's temporary in order to stop something or to get something done. Which is why, about 2 years ago, there was the trucker protest. And the trucker protest shut down Ottawa, Niagara, and a bunch of other places. You probably remember some of that.
I remember seeing some of that, yeah.
People at Niagara were doing SOS signs to the states. Help us, help us. Well, Trudeau decided to do an Emergency Measures Act, and that's now being charter challenged because it violates the charter, but the notwithstanding clause means he could do it, but it's going to be fun watching that go through courts. It's kind of gone through some of it, and basically they shut down Ottawa, those truckers, because they wanted their way.
Yeah, there were effectively a whole bunch of effectively MAGA protesters.
Exactly. They were the Canadian MAGA.
Yeah, which literally made no sense whatsoever. They're a bunch of tractor trailer drivers putting together a long convoy of protests against something that doesn't affect their country. Really, I don't know, man. It's like if you were to take the movie Convoy but run it from left to right. Well, I guess it was still left to right across North America, but you mixed it with Mad Max and I don't know, something to do with I don't know, the Germans.
Cannonball Run?
No, Cannonball Run was a completely different. Cannonball Run was just for fun.
Smokey and the Bandit?
No, because there was something that was worthwhile. I mean, they were trying to get beer, and I mean, come on, what's more American than breaking the law to get beer? But no, it literally was from left coast to right coast across North America. These tractor trailer drivers in a long ass convoy, hauling pictures and signs and placards and flags, and just trying to clog up everything with their sheer numbers. And when all is said and done, they get around to some places. It's like, guys, just GTFO, man. I mean, what are you doing? It's not like he's going to be the president in Canada because, well, there's a number of reasons, but not the least of which is Canada doesn't have a president. Oh, yeah, by the way, for all of you that are American like me, yeah, Canada doesn't have a president. I know, right?
It's amazing.
You know, there's some people right now that are just like, well, duh, and others of you that are like, oh, yeah, right. What? Of
Yeah,
course.
we have a king. We have the
Well,
governor general. We have the king.
technically.
We have the king. Then we have the governor general. And then we have the prime minister, as well as the Senate and the members of parliament.
Yeah.
So, I can't believe I said we have the king. I miss her.
I know.
Sorry.
I know.
Yes, I'm a monarchist because I love the monarchy. No, I'm not a monarchist because I don't like the king.
You're a monarchist because the romantic aspect of it. And I get that. I totally get that. You know,
Well, it's not just romantic aspect of it. If something goes really for shit wrong in Canada, and going and complaining to your MP, to the prime minister, to your senator, to the governor general doesn't work. There's always the king.
one would expect that the governor general would actually know what the hell they were doing and would cover things. For those of you that don't understand what the purpose of the governor general is, I don't particularly understand it myself entirely. All I've known is that the Governor General is basically the go-between between Canada as its own entity and the crown of the British Empire. Even if it's not necessarily called the Empire anymore, it's just more a matter of that they're kind of the go-between messenger. They're kind of the
Not really the
ambassador back and
go-between
forth.
messenger or ambassador, more like I'm acting as if I am the king, but I have no actual political power other than to rubber stamp things that comes across my desk. It's basically the final stamp. Sort of like your president, with the ability to veto and rubber stamp, but as well, not like your president because we don't vote for them. They're appointed.
And appointed by whom?
I believe it's the prime minister, but the actual appointment is done by the king.
Well,
And
now by the king.
It's just basically a rubber stamp at that point as well. Oh, okay. You've given me a list of these people with their credentials. I pick this person.
It sounds a lot like an ambassador, but that's me. I don't understand the complete inner workings of it all, so
Neither do I.
I'm allowed to be ignorant.
Neither do I. Canada is Canada.
Canada.
And unfortunately, Americans seem to think that Canada is the 51st state. So they bring things like guns over.
Or try to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, case in point, by the way, folks, if you think bringing guns into Canada is something that you can do easily, A, no, and B, as with every other rule breaking, yes, you will get away with it occasionally. When you don't, however, lots of really bad things end up happening to you. It's not worth it.
The only way I could get my father's Civil War long gun into Canada would be if I resined or cemented the entire barrel.
I don't necessarily think that would be a bad thing, personally, but that's me because I would think that it would be more a ceremonial piece, but that also completely destroys a lot of whatever value it might have to it in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from somebody who's still got his grandfather's hunting shotgun over there. It is an incredibly old bolt action shotgun. I will allow you people to kind of go, wait, what? For a couple of seconds here. And it's in such bad condition and has been for a very, very long time that if you were to pull, cock back, push forward, push in on the bolt, which there is a very, very small nubby of a bolt, yes, you can still fire it. Well, I mean, you can squeeze the trigger. I don't put anything into it other than just air. It's really, really, really difficult to move that bolt without using a vice grip on it to have something to grip onto.
So it needs to be taken apart and refurbished.
Probably. But I will never do that because for me, it's not a weapon to be used. It's just a memento. I would much rather have it just is completely non-functional. I just like to see it every once in a while.
Anyway, we're talking about bringing religion into schools, specifically the Judeo-Christian style religion that the far right seems to think is the religion of the United States.
And the best part about it is we can get away with saying not even the Judeo-Christian, because we could just get away with saying the Jewish laws, or at least 10 of the Jewish laws, of which there are over 300 if you go through the Old Testament. And I say the Jewish laws because the Old Testament is what is otherwise known as the Torah.
I'm not going to go get my Torah. We have one here.
Don't need it. Yeah, and for anybody
I can't read it anyway.
Yeah. And for anybody that's just like, wait, 300 law? What are you talking? Yeah. If you were to go properly through the Old Testament, the Torah, you will find out that there are over 300 laws, rules that you are supposed to follow according to Moses and supposedly God himself, Yahweh.
The best irony is that their prophet, Jesus, essentially said, get rid of all these old laws. We got new ones to follow.
He also said something about, I did not come to get rid of the old laws, but to enforce them. So which face do you follow on the question of what do you do, you know? So for anybody that goes ahead and says, no, Jesus wiped out the old law, well, that's also not what he said, because, yeah, he said that, but he also said this. So take your pick.
Because some of his new laws don't work with the old laws.
And the new ones completely countermand the old ones in some cases. So yeah, it's a big, like, why? Memory serves, and the Jewish Torah, again being the Old Testament, the Jews do not see the New Testament as anything other than the equivalent of the Twilight books. It's a nice piece of fan fiction, but we don't follow that because Jesus was he was a rabbi, he was a teacher. He kind of went out there a little bit radicalized, but he's not Yahweh. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but whatever. You guys do your thing.
He thinks he's some sort of prophet.
Yeah. Yeah, he's no Moses though, so it's weird.
My favorite bumper sticker. Jesus saves, Moses invests.
Yes. I still also like seeing the ones Jesus saves and there's a little floppy disk icon. I like that one.
Oh, there was a coexist bumper sticker in the movie I saw today. I was laughing my ass off.
Maybe next week I will ask the little one if he would like to go see a movie with me in the middle of the day.
Do take him.
I will give consideration to that. I'll pitch it to him and see what he's got to say about it. So, one of the biggest questions about this whole thing with putting poster, I hate even calling it that, of the Ten Commandments up in student classrooms in public school, not the least of which is the idea that this is a religious piece in a public school. You're not supposed to do that, period. But, all right, why? If you're going to put up something that is religious, why that? Very specifically. Why not something from the Jains? Why not something from the Sikh community? Why not something from the Buddhists or the Shinto or one of the hundreds of Native American groups, for instance?
Or the Muslims, or the Baha'is, or this, or that, or this, or that. There are as many religions on Earth, almost as many people as there are.
Yeah.
And yeah, they can be clustered into different groups and whatnot. It's my mother was a Baha'i. I grew up as a Baha'i child. My mother did not tell the teacher that I could not participate in the religious stuff that was being taught in school because we had to say the Lord's Prayer in French every single morning, grades kindergarten, grades 1, grades 2, grades 3. Then when I moved to BC, I no longer had to do that. But Ontario definitely had to do that. I also hated the Christmas concerts because of all the Jesus stuff. If you catch me singing at Christmas time, you will hear me sing the carols, and I will not say that one word, that one name. Or I will sing a spoof of it instead.
Sure.
Why? Because I was forced to sing those songs, and it wasn't the religion I was being brought up in. There was 3 kids at my elementary school in Ontario that were all Baha'i kids. And the other 2 were in the other grade 2 class. So I got Baha'i days off, Baha'i High Holy days off. And I got in trouble, so much trouble for taking those days off school because it ruined my perfect attendance that I was supposed to get in order to get the perfect attendance thing. And da, 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 da. But I had to have the High Holy days off because those were High Holy days. Rizwan and Ayamiha, and actually I had to go to school during Ayamiha, but Nowruz and all the others, oh. But I was taught, and I was actually not able to cope with some of the stuff that was being taught in Canadian schools. One of our books that we were doing for English class, grades 6, 7? Sounds right, because it was my French teacher was Sister Sardine, I hate him. Grade 6, 7, this class was doing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the teacher was talking about Aslan sacrificing himself on the table, on the stone table, and comparing it to Jesus. And I was looking at the teacher like, what do you mean? And when he finally clued in that I had no biblical teachings whatsoever, because I never went to Bible school, never had any of that, he actually had to spend some time and discuss it and talk about it. Because he was talking about the Stations of the Cross, so that's very Catholic, and the sacrifice and everything that was done to Aslan and comparing it to what was done to Jesus. Yeah, I have a very hard time talking about somebody's torture and murder, especially being used as religious symbology.
And growing up Catholic, it was not presented in such a way as that it was governmental assassination of a person. And I'm using the term assassination as if it would. The term is typically referred to for, killing someone who is in authority. Yeah, I mean, it still stands to reason the same way. And I'm using it because there have been other faithful teachers in recent memory who have been killed by the government. I'm thinking of someone that had a song written about him by a group from over in the British Isles who has had their hit back in the late 80s and early 90s, whose music was all put onto iDevices for a while, but we're sure I have no idea what I'm talking about right about now. That, again, it was never presented in any way as government assassination of a teacher, of a rabbi, which is effectively what the story is. And I'm saying that because I am not convinced of the historicity of Jesus. All right? Was I as a kid? Yes, because that's what I was told. Over these years, I am unconvinced. So that's where I am on that one. Not going to be a dick about it, but not going to necessarily grant you the high ground on this one. All right?
You're not granting me the high ground.
No, not you. I mean, just the royal you people, all of you people.
There was somebody in that area that was a Yeshua bin Yeshua, which translates into Jesus, son of Joseph, supposedly. But he was also a brown man.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was real as a Messiah and whatnot, if he did all these miracles, if, why aren't the followers following what he taught? Love one another. Take care of the sick, the poor, the least among me, because then you take care of me. I'm bastardizing. I don't know the Bible that well.
No, and you're paraphrasing it well enough. And why are they not doing? Because
money.
It's a tad more complicated than that, but that is a very large, overwhelming part of it. Sam Mulvey from our friend Sam over at Ask an Atheist, which, by the way, Sam, yes, you man, he's even said that modern American Christianity is all about the money. You can't see the cross. He's saying you can't see the cross anymore without seeing dollar signs, all over it. But the problem is, it's not just the money in value, it's the value in shared animosity, xenophobia, racism. And I'm saying them like they're all separate pieces, but they're not. It's all the same piece. And to me, that's just one of the most disgusting things as an American, because it's not supposed to be that way. It is, and it has been for a very long time. But I grew up believing, and I still do, it's not supposed to be that way. Maybe I'm naive. Okay.
Stephanie is saying, when referring to Yeshua, remember that it was as common as John is now. Yep, it was common. And Mary was common.
Well, I mean, obviously, if she got pregnant and didn't let her husband know about it, yeah, she was common as old.
I'm talking about the name.
Oh,
The name Mary was common.
oh.
The name John was common.
Well, I
Or
mean,
rather, Yeshua.
John is a common name for a common woman to. Okay, I'm probably going like way off in a weird area right about now. I'm gonna stop right
It's
there.
she made that comment about the Yeshua bin Yeshua.
I know. You see what disparaging mentions I'm doing right about now. I'm just figuring out I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna end up pissing off somebody who's of a religious bend, and I want their hate and their tears and their. I just want the interaction is all.
My theory about Mary is either she and Joseph had a fun little tryst, and so he had to marry her, or she had been offered because somebody visited her father and she ended up pregnant because that's something that they did.
Mm-hmm.
They offered up their daughters, and Joseph liked her and said, "Hey, I'll take her."
It's possible.
And one of the things I love throwing into so-called Christian men's faces, why are you not acting like Joseph? Joseph, this is a woman with a child. Why aren't you being a father to that child? It's not my child. Jesus wasn't Joseph's son. Don't bring my Savior's name into the. And I start laughing. It's like, yeah, hypocrite.
Yeah, because it's not about the love; it's about the shared hate. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the shared distrust. And if you'll pardon the expression, God help you if you point out, yeah, nobody from that area would have had skin tone like you. And by like you, I mean the vast majority of people who are, like me, who are comparatively very light skinned. My biggest problem is that the only suntanning that I had been getting over the last couple of years were from fluorescent lights and LCD screens. But hey, I'm getting a contact high from the sun shining on everything around me these days. Leave me alone.
I actually have a bit of a suntan.
Yeah, I'm also trying to remind myself, yeah, suntanning is not the safest, healthiest thing to be doing anymore. But that still doesn't change the fact that I've got all these. You know what? I was about to go down an area that I shouldn't. Um, I can't explain it without giving it away. So we'll just leave that one set there. I know it's a piece of lore you can ask me about later, and I will violently deny saying anything because I'm not going to say anything because it's in my head, and I'm going to forget after tonight. So here we go. I will drink alcohol tonight so that I forget.
Stephanie, my opinion is that the New Testament was a mystery religion in all fiction. Most of the Old Testament is too. That's actually kind of true because most primitive quote unquote societies have some sort of Noah's Ark flood myth. Not necessarily Noah, could be Gilgamesh, could be other names. But it's an ancient name or an ancient myth, and it was brought into the Torah, which became the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Simka Jakovic, I'm probably bastardizing his name. I love him. The naked archaeologist from Canada. He's philosophy, not really an archaeologist, but he goes or used to go into Israel and look at all the ancient sites and try and explain things from his point of view. He's basically a Jew looking for Jesus, is one of the things that he said. Not looking for Jesus as in hoping to find him and be converted, but looking for Jesus as I want actual proof that this man existed. He's shown how possibly Tehelet was made, which is the royal blue, the holy blue, and a couple of other things that when I was originally watching his show on Vision TV when I was back in Canada, I absolutely love. Yes, you can find the Naked Archaeologist on YouTube. There's at least 3 seasons. Go ahead, watch. He's great. He kind of makes you question more than anything else. He shows the archaeology and you make your own assumptions. And of course, I was bitching earlier about how the Y-Files hadn't updated their podcast, their YouTube they're supposed to do it today. And they too have been going and debunking things as well. And I like them. I don't really like Hecklefish, but I like them because of how they do their research. And I like what the team does and is trying to do.
Okay.
But talk about conspiracy theories galore.
Yeah. Stephanie's also pointed out, the funniest part is that Christians have spent a couple of centuries trying to find archaeology to support the Bible. I cannot tell you how many times I had ever heard growing up. So, going back to the 70s, the times when there was a news thing of some sort or other where some group or other has identified a location for the final resting place of Noah's Ark and claim that they've found the location. And it's like, if it was a real thing, that means that it's been well over 2,000 years of a big hunk of wood in the middle of the desert. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have survived that long.
Actually, it might have. The desert might have essentially preserved it, and apparently it's not actually in the desert, it's actually on a mountain. But at the same time, in that same area, there is a boat shape that was dug out of the ground that they'd found. There's places on this earth that have hidden archaeology.
Oh, sure.
All over.
Oh, sure. And I will never take that away. It is entirely possible that there are geological formations that would appear to be somewhat, for instance, canoe-shaped or even larger canoe-shaped, because the Ark, for lack of a better way of putting it, is effectively just a really large canoe in shape. So, I mean, could you maybe find something that maybe could be shaped correctly to match that? Sure. Yeah, why not? Whatever. But, yeah. Finding pieces of wood up on top of Mount Ararat? Sure. Finding a big-ass boat that would be... no.
Buried?
Yeah, no. And just no.
Yeah, one of my ex-boyfriends and I, when we found Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat, all the, was it A&E or some History Channel or some sort of other channel? This was 92, 93, 94. All their specials. The two of us would be sitting there watching and watching and watching. He would be leaning forward and watching, and I'd be kind of chewing on my fingers, drawing, whatever, listening, but still watching. And yeah, there's stuff in that area that cannot be ascertained as to what it is. But there's stuff all over the Middle East that they're not quite sure where it is, what it is. And they don't have permission to dig. And unless you have permission to dig and actually check out your suppositions and your theories, it's just all, yeah, we think something's there.
Yeah. And the funny part of it is, these days, with the technology that we currently have available to us, which was never mentioned in the Bible in any way, shape, or form, you could use ground level radar. Drag a sensing unit across the ground and actually read radar returns coming back from underneath the ground and never disturb a single item. Wouldn't have to dig. Literally just get reflections. Hell, you could start to get some of that even from like an overhead flight if you really tried. Which also flight, not a thing that was ever described. Powered flight, not ever described. Engines that operate off of fossil fuels, or even fossils fuels.
LiDAR can be used from a plane. Radar or sonic or something was used to find the Titanic. They weren't actually trying to find the Titanic. They were trying to find subs from the world wars just to see what happened to them. And they didn't find the Titanic. They found the Titanic's debris field. Then they found the Titanic.
Yeah.
We have drone technology. We can send drones up to places that's not quite safe for humans to go.
Yeah.
And get some interesting pictures.
The easy one for me was to go ahead and say, yeah, we've done it with Mars. You know what? Screw that noise. We did it with goddamned Venus. Venus, the place where if you were to drop something into it, it would melt. And by anything, I mean anything.
They think they found life. Primitive life. But they think they found the chemicals that indicate that there is life. Because there's a chemical reaction that creates ammonia, which neutralizes the sulfur, which would enable life. But life would have to be there in order to create the ammonia, to neutralize the sulfur. They think that they found life on Venus.
But the question is, how? Now, I'm not saying that from the standpoint of, well, I'm poo-pooing it. No, man. If that's able to be found, how did it happen? Because that suddenly becomes a question mark that, yeah, scientists would need to then go ahead and, well, try to determine. Not the least of which is, is that really? It's a good indication, but until there's actual, look what I found, kind of have to wait.
It's beyond my science understanding, but I did take chemistry in high school, so I understand basics. If you take this chemical, because it shows that it's made because this chemical is also made, which is they also found, and that neutralizes this chemical, and that's a symptom.
Yeah. And Stephanie, I'm right there with you. Exobiology is really interesting, but 900C, there are extremophiles on this planet that sit around volcanic vents where it is an incredible amount of heat, that there shouldn't be anything there, and yet they're there. So is it possible for there to be some form of life generating? You know what? We have life here. The odds are low, but they ain't zero. Because until we've explored every last inch, and we ain't gonna do that, kind of hard to say. So is it possible? Sure. Is it plausible? To the way that we have understood life, and let's be real here. The human species at this time really doesn't understand life. Maybe. I'm more than happy to find out that, we have a neighbor. But right now, it's also plausible for us to go ahead and go afterwards, well, you know what? That really isn't life. There is a new process that we never knew existed before that's making this happen and giving us a false positive. Let's learn about that. But if you're not inspiring kids to learn because you're pigeonholing them in their early development, you got less kids interested. You've got fewer kids becoming science-minded, curious personalities. This just ends up being a hurtful, harmful thing later. No matter how you slice it. Never mind the legacy. This is bad.
Over on the Clock app, there are people that have been posting STEM math questions. Some of them are essentially about a grade 9 level, which I can understand, but some of them I've forgotten how to do because they're 10, 11, 12.
Sure.
But this is my Canadian education from the 80s. This might now be college math or advanced math or whatever. The 5 plus 5 times 5 minus 5 divided by 5 type of questions with no parentheses.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Those questions. How many people got the wrong answer because they didn't understand PEMDAS or PEDMAS or BEDMAS or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, partly because either they weren't given those instructions before, because it's not exactly the most recent of mathematical principles, but rolling it out educationally for some people, depending on as to when they learned their math, it might have not trickled down to them at that point. Or conversely, you don't use it, you kind of forget how to do it. Most of us don't exactly read music anymore and have just a passing familiarity with, oh yeah, I know, wait, I used to remember what this key signature was. No, wait, I can get it. I can get it. Four sharps. Okay, you take the last sharp and you go up a step. That's the name of the key, right? That's the key signature, right? Oh, I got it wrong.
I wouldn't know. I was never able to read music.
Yeah.
All the music I did or do is either rote or pure chance.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I can sort of still read music. I can read a piece of sheet music for I can read what the chord names are. And over a little bit of time, I can kind of suss out what the notes are supposed to be, usually on a keyboard. I haven't played guitar or bass in a very, very long time, but on a keyboard I can kind of suss it out, no pun intended, and then slowly move to the next one. But I'm not exactly reading the actual notes in front of me anymore, which hurts because I used to be able to do that. I used to be able to sight read. I'm gonna say it. I used to be able to sight read like a motherfucker. You sit me down with a piece of violin music or guitar music or bass music, man, I'd be all over that. Now I haven't used it in so long. It's just very.
So the 10 Commandments thing is about controlled children, making them less educated. Not quite stupid, but just less educated. Filling their minds with stuff that they don't really need.
Making them less inquisitive.
And more importantly, each one of those posters are going to be at least $50 per. The poster itself, plus the framing, plus having somebody to hang it in each classroom, because it's going to have to be officially hanged. It's not going to, there's no way that they're going to allow a teacher to hang that.
Oh,
Oh, no.
oh yeah, oh yeah, because
They are?
Yep, because they are on top of everything else. Depending as to which jurisdiction you're going with, they have to be. I'm trying to remember. For some of them, it was they have to be donated, they cannot be bought by, and they have to be placed in a specific way. I mean, and if I remember right, it was something along the lines of they have to be in a prominent location. Now, how exactly all of those things are supposed to be met, and I might be mixing and matching a couple of different jurisdictions and how they're doing it, but be that as it may, it still comes down to, as we said earlier on, the Satanic Temple is going to have a field day with this. They are absolutely going to have a field day with this because they're going to ask for their 7 tenets to go up. And I'm absolutely on board for the first time that happens, or better yet, when a teacher voluntarily puts them up.
There are 7 fundamental tenets. 1 should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. The struggle for justice is ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. And this one is for women, especially. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. The freedom of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forgo one's own. The beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care to never distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. And the last one, every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word.
We've talked about this before, and we've pit the 10 commandments against the 7 tenets. And we are not the first to have done it, and we sure as hell ain't going to be the last. But every time it comes up, when a blind taste test is put up for people who are given the 7 tenets, universally, as a blind taste test, they're like, yeah, those sound like really good things. Only to find out afterwards, what do you mean it's the Satanic Temple? Don't have curious people, don't have informed people. You get what you paid for.
It's not the Council Wars, it's the Prince Roger series, or eventually the King Roger series. There's actually a Satanist within the group. And her belief, I believe it was a her, was that the angels have God prisoner. So Satan is trying to get people to become educated and smart so he can raise an army to free God. After all, the victors always write the history. And if you think about it, Satan asks permission before he comes in you.
Well, any good person should. I may be mixing metaphors here just a little bit, but I don't really much care.
Yeah, I actually found one of the versions of the 10 Commandments. And, you shall not have any other God besides me.
Wait. Are you actually looking at it right now?
Yeah.
Could you read verbatim what the first one is? Verbatim.
This is from St. Michael Church. It's a Catholic church. I, the Lord, am your God. You shall not have any other gods besides me.
Yep, that's what I thought. And that one has been brought out many a time to remind people that the exact wording, according to that, should it be real? Meaning, actually, what was commanded, you hear it and you should be reminded that means that even Yahweh was acknowledging that there are other gods.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be metaphorical or literal is a matter of some conjecture, of course, but still.
Okay, first off, I'm not saying that God exists.
Yep.
But if God didn't exist, some man somewhere would create a God in order to explain why the hell this shit happened to him. Number 2 is you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain.
Yeah, which is more along the lines of, well, God told me to tell you, as opposed to swearing.
You can't use my name. You can't. Are you talking Jesus Christ? Because his name was neither Jesus nor Christ.
Right, it was Jesus the Christ.
Yeah. And even then, it wasn't Jesus the Christ. It was Yeshua, of Nazareth.
Hmm.
Or for that matter, Yeshua of Bethlehem, because that's where he was born.
Or Nazareth, depending as to who you ask the piece about. But that's a whole other thing.
Assuming he was born. Remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. Okay, are you talking Saturday or Sunday?
Well, I mean,
because honor your mother and father.
Yeah, right after they finished their third case of Budweiser, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. You shall not kill. I'm not supposed to even kill animals so I have food to eat?
That's right. You watch where you step. You might step on a ladybug.
Mm-hmm. You shall not commit adultery.
Well,
oh, come on, where's all the fun?
If you're a school kid, you shouldn't. I mean, that was kind of problematic right there, isn't it?
If you're a school kid, you shouldn't be having sex because sex before marriage is wrong. That's that one.
Well, I mean, the whole minor thing at that point too.
Yeah. You shall not steal, which is number 7. Well, yeah. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Don't be a liar. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife.
Again, there's that whole, don't be sexualizing the kids thing. Thanks.
Don't be sexualizing your neighbor's wife. Don't be sexualizing their cow, their horse, their.
Well, I don't know, man. All those nipples on the cow, you're asking for it.
We're gonna have a talk in a bit. You shall not. Okay, that was neighbor's wife. You shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor.
Well, capitalism is out.
The last 3 are basically, don't be a jealous dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing really in here about being a good person. It's obey these things or else. Whereas the Satanic Temple, it's the first one is one should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. Yes, I'm drinking now. Muchly.
It's okay. Yeah. The tenets tend to be much more proper proper life suggestions for coexistence and empathy, sympathy.
Oh, I hope the Satanic Temple has fun.
I hope somebody has finally taken the tenets and made cute kid-friendly versions that could be put up into alongside these things. I can't wait to see it.
Doing a quick look for the Baha'i laws. We're supposed to pray 5 times a day, like Muslims. Donating to the church, which is the Hohola. 17% of your income, and so forth.
Yeah, it sounds pretty close.
Yeah, the Baha'i faith is the closest religion to having equality between the sexes, except a woman can never be on the universal house of justice. Because she's supposed to be at home raising the children and teaching them. She's supposed to be higher educated than the men, because if she's educated, she'll teach the kids.
All right, there's something to be said for that.
But this is laws that I can remember from the 80s. And the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, whatever, came out in the 80s, and they were starting to study it. And the one thing that really got me about it was the no sex before marriage and marriage only for the raising of children. What?
Well, sure. Why not? So people who are sterile are not to get married? That sounds kind of poo-pooey to me.
Well, I knew one man that married a Baha'i woman. He was also Baha'i, and he helped finish raising her children. They never had a child of their own, but he helped finish raising her children.
Sounds like a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you get into family. That way. I just realized we've completely finished up the time that we would otherwise have, and we did not get completely vitriolic. I'm actually impressed. That works out good. I can get to sleep nicely tonight.
Oh, you want me to get you vitriolic?
No. No, as a matter of fact, no, I don't.
This is when I start ranting about how dare they force religion down children's throats.
Well,
no, I'm gonna let the satanic. I'm gonna let the Satanic Temple deal with them, because they're gonna have fun. They have the lawyers. They have the resources, and I'm gonna let the ACLU deal with it.
And they will, and they are. Freedom from Religious Foundation, ACLU, a lot of groups are going after this, and trust me, this will not be the last that we will end up hearing of this. As far as the whole thing about shoving religion down any kid's throats, I would otherwise have made a Catholic joke, but I really don't think that we need to go down that route right about now because, well, that would be unseemly. I mean, the whole, shooting a fish in a barrel kind of thing, so.
We'll joke later.
Something like that. We'll call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. Hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives, and you got something to think about for the week ahead. And
hold on. Stephanie actually has something really, really good to say. I keep envisioning a wall of religions where you put up the tenets of every religion you can find. I like that. I would also like to see not necessarily atheist tenets, but at least the foundations of what atheism is as well.
Atheism, the tenets of atheism are a single line. Prove it. And if you wanted to get into, quote unquote, the tenets of atheism, you'd probably end up just looking at the Humanist Manifesto. But that's got its own thing because it's called the Manifesto, and, well, is what it is. But
Actually, I think there's two things for atheists: don't be a jerk, and prove it.
yeah, that's probably not so bad. And yes, I agree. There should be at least one classroom that the corkboard is just filled with the commandments, the tenets, the guiding principles of a whole bunch of different religions. And I would very much like them to be on a board with red thread that connects them all, that shows the timeline of which ones were made when and who ended up copying from whom. But that's now crossing history with proper English terminology because I'm going to use whom in the correct location and reason. Thanks for being with us. Over there on the chat, Stephanie, done a bang up job. Appreciate you as always. Phyllis, I know you're around there somewhere, probably falling asleep and whatnot. We'll discuss what you should and shouldn't do again later. But probably already got an earful, so you take care of yourself. Io, thank you, as always. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm going to... I think it's safe for me to go ahead and upgrade you from guest host to host, because you're on more often than you're not now. Thank you for being able to be here.
As soon as Brigid shows up, I'm going to go, whoo.
That's fair. That's fair. Or have one show with her. Because I think you guys have bounced off each other great.
We already do.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that. So thank you. As again, a reminder, and I will put it out there again, there will be no show next week because I need to get my sleep. And I'll be seeing my son. Good. And we will see you. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll see you in about 2 weeks, assuming that everything is working correctly. I expect that they will. If you'd like to be in touch with us, over in the show notes, you will see the link for all the stuff on the webpage, the Discord. The Discord is probably the best way of getting in touch with us. Just join us. There's no reason not to. And you can find us on all kinds of other social media because, that's kind of the way that it is. I will be looking forward to seeing y'all soon. And thank you for being there. Thank you for being there. So, until the next time we're together, everyone, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And as always, I have to remind you, even though we're a week ahead, happy birthday, FUJIN. I love you. Mwah. Matane. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone. As always, good night.